Hi, Assalamualaikum to Sir Samsudin and friends. Today we are going to present to all of you about the topic assignment that we have chosen, which is functions of Salaries Commission and Salaries Committee in Malaysia. Okay, before we start our presentation, we would like to introduce ourselves first. The first member of our group is Aina Aini Malaysia. Next is Siti Raisha binti Abdul Rahman, the one who is presenting right now. Then Nurizati binti Rosli. Next member is Nurfatin Zahid. And the last member of our group is Nurhanisa binti Shamsuddin. Okay, now let's start with the introduction first. Nurhanisa will be the first presenter to present on the definition of Salary Commission and Salary Committee.
First, the definitions of salary commissions. The salary commissions was tasked with the responsibility of analyzing compensation structure and recommending changes to the government. However, this arrangement was altered in 1976. The salary commissions were abolished in favor of a cabinet committee to assess public employee compensations. Salary commission, named after its respective chairman, had defined aims and offered recommendations to resolve specific issues relating to the public employee compensations. For example, Aziz Commissions. Before the Aziz Commissions, issue arising among educators such as teacher requirement was primarily handled by school boards in response to the unique requirements of specific school. A teacher at an English school was often paid more than his colleague in Malay school, and male and female teacher earned different amounts of salary. Thus, following the Aziz Commission advance, all non-government teachers were given the option of remaining in their separate service or joining the government service. Teachers who wish to continue in their own service were placed under the auspice of a central board. An academy of professional degree and teacher training qualification dictated the baseline remunerations and plan of service for individuals who options to be government teacher. Next, the definitions of Salary Committee. One significant distinction between the defunct Salary Commissions and the new Cabinet Committee is that the new Committee Compensations Evaluations procedure is no longer conducted independently. The Salary Committee is created to set the public worker remuneration policy, determine total individual remuneration package, and set the target for performance-related pay. The Salary Committee should have delegate responsibility for determining the policy for public workers' remunerations and setting remuneration for the public employee. It should review workforce remunerations and related policy and the alignments of incentive and rewards with culture, taking this into account when setting the policy for public employee remunerations. For instance, the Ibrahim Ali Salary Commission's proposal was examined by the Salary Committee in 1976. Mahathir Mohamad, the Deputy Prime Minister, chaired the first Cabinet Committee. As a result of the Cabinet Committee recommendations, the government rejected the Ibrahim Ali report and instead produced a report known as the Laporan Jawatan Kuasa Kabinet in 1976. CCR most notable feature were the provisions of housing and entertainment allowance and the consolidations of reduction of service plans to 574. In addition, the government extended pensions payment to the deceased, retired, surviving family members.
Over the last 50 years or more, there are various commissions and committees has been established in order to review and offer recommendation to the government of the day on matters relating to the public employee pay. The Salary Commission was in charge of assessing salary plans and making recommendation to the government before 1976. In 1976, this configuration was altered and the Cabinet Committee has taken over the role of the Salaries Commission in reviewing the public employee salaries. The British colonial administration left behind the practice of establishing Salary Commission. The Bucknell Pay Commission was founded in year 1919 to assess the salary of Malayan public workers. Then there are 5 Salaries Commission are the Subordinate Service Committee 1920, Salary Commission of Trusted 1947, Kogel Salary 1949, Benham Salary 1950, and Brent Salary 1956. Even after the Malaysia obtained political independence from the United Kingdom in 1957, this pattern remained. Then the Malaysia government has established at least 7 pay commission between 1957 to 1975 and 3 cabinet committees between 1976 and 2002. In 1962, there are the Watson Commission, then followed by Sufyan Salary Commission in 1964, then the Aziz Commission 1971, and the Sheikh Abdullah Committee 1972, and Harun Commission 1973. Then there are the Salary Commission was abolished in 1976, and the Cabinet Committee was established to deal with the issue relating to the public employees' salaries. According to Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam in 1976, the Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad headed the first Cabinet Committee in 1976 to consider the Ibrahim Ali Salaries Commission's recommendation. Laporan Jawatan Kuasa Kabinet, which is Cabinet Committee reported CCR, which has enacted in 1976, and the new remuneration system was adopted in 1992 by the second Cabinet Committee, which was chaired by Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. The NRS was the item to link for performance and reward, with the compensation advancement dependent on the employee's success, in line with the pay for performance philosophy. In January 1993, the government created a new performance appraisal system with the goal of establishing a systematic, transparent, and dependable baseline to improve the implementation of NRS.
Next is 3.0, which is Function Salaries Commissions. First point is advice on the salaries and remuneration to be paid. By negotiating collective bargaining agreements, the Salaries Commission ensures that all employees are paid with salaries and remunerations. The best way to achieve a friendly relationship between employers and employees is through collective bargaining. It's also a good place to work out jobs, terms, and conditions. To achieve this goal, a country's industrial relations system must have a legislative structure that allows parties to bargain collectively with the goals of reaching a goal collective bargaining agreement. The International Labour Organization, which is ILO, has passed a convention that lays out a framework for member nations to draft legislation that would make such a system possible. Next is review all matter relating to the salaries and remunerations. In comparison to the board committees, the Salaries Commission Committee is frequently considered as a one tricky pony, with its sole job being to oversee the remunerations of director and senior management. While this may be true, reducing the Salary Commission Committee important within the board ecosystem by considering it to have less duty than other committees are a mistake. As a result, it is usual for a listed issue board as well as non-profit and non-governmental organization boards to appoint a committee to assess the remuneration framework, policy, and procedures. Typically, director and senior executive are covered, although some committees elect to include the entire firm. 4.0, which is Function Salaries Committee. The first one is to provide clarification or info during general meeting on matters pertaining to remunerations. The function of director as steward of the company play a key role in good corporate governance. Directors are supposed to lead management with professionalism and integrity in order to achieve long-term corporate sustainability while promoting shareholder accountability. According to recent observation, shareholders are becoming increasingly adamant in their demand for more information and transparency from directors. Because general meetings are one of the rare opportunities for shareholders to speak directly with the board, it is critical for directors to be present during this meeting to address shareholders' questions and concerns regarding their remunerations.
Okay, now
I will explain about the remuneration scheme applied to the civil servant from then until now. Before we start with the remuneration scheme, I would like to give a brief explanation about what is remuneration. Remuneration is a payment for services, job of benefit, discover a regular salary and any bonuses received during work by an employee. Remuneration also refer to the employee net pay, which include not only the base salary of the employee but dividend, bonuses, spending account, and any type of compensation. The minimum wage is the lowest remuneration that an employee should be lawfully given by an employer. So the amount of salary must be greater than the amount enforced by federal law. The Malaysian system of remuneration is the base structure and terms of service of official of legislative body as modified by the federal government effective as from 1st November 2002. Remuneration system in Malaysia is managed by Public Service Department. So, Datuk Awang Alik bin Jeman is the director of Remuneration Department. Okay, the main function of remuneration is to implement the recommendation of Salary Committee once accepted by government, and the objective of remuneration is ensuring a scheme of remuneration that can attract, improve, and retain public sector workers for ensuring harmonious relation between employees and employer. The function of remuneration also is to create, execute, and attract the management of the government remuneration system, such as salaries and allowance. Remuneration division also accountable to study on matter needed to remuneration policy. Okay, now let's start with the first remuneration system that apply to the civil servants, which is the first one is new remuneration system or NRS. Okay, the new remuneration scheme or NRS, also known as Sistem Saraan Baru SSB, in 1992 was introduced by our 4th and 7th Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. So this scheme aimed to strengthen the public service capacity to address current and future difficulties in national development. So when it was introduced, it was widely applauded as a positive step toward reducing inefficiency and increasing the public sector productivity and also quality. Okay, performance appraisal is the important aspect of the remuneration system. The government introduced a new evaluation procedure under this NRS. This new reform decreased the number of service scheme from 574 to 274 and divided them into 19 categories based on similar roles and function. The NRS introduced a completely new salary structure in the form of a metric salary schedule or MSS. So this metric salary schedule is divided to 4 movements, which are the first one, static, horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. So static is referred to the no increment of salary if civil servant performance is poor. Meanwhile, horizontal is 1 step increment of salary for civil servant with excellent performance. Meanwhile, vertical is 2 step pay increment, and lastly, diagonal is similar to the 3 step increment pay process for those who score above average in annual performance appraisal. So, new remuneration system also reclassified civil servants into 3 major groups. The first major group is Premier Grade Post, or in bahasa we call it as kumpulan pengurusan tertinggi. And the second group is Management and Professional, or in bahasa we call it as kumpulan pengurusan dan profesional. And the third one is Support Staff, or in bahasa we call it as kumpulan sokongan. So the purpose is to reduce the ends timeline and the hierarchy levels to overcome the organization problem that related to distribution of tasks as well as the determination of employee grade. So the primary grade post consists of position of grade C and above. Meanwhile, management and professional are a service scheme that need a requirement at least a bachelor degree or other higher qualification recognized by the government, such as finance officer of W41 and also diplomatic officers M4044. Meanwhile, support staff is the position for grade 29 until 88 only, such as assistant accountant grade W29. Okay, so this merit-based system of salary payment is intended to inspire employee and performance, but due to this structural flaws and imbalanced practice, the system has sparked employee discontent and unhappiness. Then the government redesigned and strengthened merit-based remuneration when the NRS failed to accomplish the objective. So as a result, nearly 10 years after the implementation of NRS, a better version known as Malaysian Remuneration System or MRS was created. So as I have mentioned earlier, after nearly 10 years after the implementation of NRS, a better version known as Malaysian Remuneration System or MRS was created. So the Malaysian Remuneration Scheme MRS, also known as Sistem Saraan Malaysia, was implemented on 1st November 2002. The inability of the new remuneration system NRS to achieve the objective caused the government to amend the merit-based composition and improve it by introducing this MRS. After the existence of MRS, the head of department also have no absolute sole authority on increment of salary to every year. Competency, skill, knowledge have all been considered equally under this system. Some of the components of NRS were kept, while others were eliminated throughout the MRS reorganization progress. As a result of the reform process, new technique of performance appraisal, salary movement, and competency assessment level has been developed, all of which are more objective and comprehensive in nature. So this scheme MRS also prioritize include in making the system more responsive to evolving political and socio-economic climate. The MRS also intends to improve the public sector ability to attract and to train, also to retain employees with the correct calibers, as well as instilling a culture of continuous learning or cultivating competent workers in public servant. The MRS is a comprehensive remuneration package that was created to fulfill the public servant needs in the K economy. So the MRS consists of four main components. Firstly is improving service condition, and second is evaluating the degree of competence through the key performance indicator or KPI, and thirdly is changing the pay structure allowance and prerequisites, and the last component is improving career growth. So the government was compelled to revamp the new remuneration system NRS when it failed to accomplish its objective, and then MRS introduced a new method of performance appraisal by introducing the competency assessment level. So what is competency assessment level? Competency assessment level is a method to determine the increment of or salary and money, and the increment of salary annually, and the development of employee progress in public sector. This competency level is done through examination or courses to test the performance level of civil servant in carry out duties. So to improve the efficiency in performance appraisal, the annual performance report APR and the goal work target form or sasaran kerja tahunan SKT is combined. Okay, besides that, the panel of Human Resource Department will establish substitute performance appraisal coordination panel. So the function of human resource panel is tended to include coordination of performance appraisal and human resource development. Other than that, Malaysia remuneration system also introduced the Excellent Service Award to the civil servant that achieve excellent performance appraisal. Furthermore, this system also introduced additional grade layer to make an appropriate system in the remuneration system. The new layer of grade, or we call it lapisan grade baru in bahasa, was added to scheme service structure to ensure the position is suitable with grade promotion and fit to career investment opportunity. Lastly, MRS also modified the salary and allowance structure and top up the salary point for all salaries schedule. So as reported in the report of the Special Cabinet Committee of Salary for the Public Sector 1991, the component includes in the new remuneration structure are basic salary, fixed allowance, variable components, and equal to total income. The basic salary is the amount of money set for the worker for the public based on the concept or reasonable salary to support of the basic need for food, clothes, and house. Fixed allowance include the budget for public serving, housing, rent, subsidy, and entertainment allowance. Fixed allowance is depending on the payment criteria. So the last component is variable component. Variable component is made up different allowance that are not permanent and are intended for particular services such as bonus or commission. The increment of salary point for each major group of public servants such as 110 ringgit for the premier grade post and 60 ringgit Malaysian for management and professional group and 15 ringgit for the support staff. So as a result, it is critical to assess the efficiency of the Malaysia remuneration system, which is thought to have favorable or positive impact on driving greater civil service performance. Okay, the last remuneration system that I will explain is public service new remuneration. So this public service new remuneration was made because the government wants to increase the productive and innovation of the civil service at the first place. So in the philosophy of public service new remuneration, it can be divided into two parts, which is transformation of public service and the sustainability of the public service. But however, due to a number of issues, this scheme did not last long. For example, there were issue of a stream salary increase has resulted in a wide disparity or lets the huge gap between high-ranking officials and lower-ranking employees. So as a result of this scheme cancellation, civil servants have continued to utilize the Malaysian remuneration scheme. In 2012, the Malaysian remuneration scheme was modified to provide more benefits to the civil servant. So that's all for my explanation on the remuneration scheme that applies to the civil servant from then until now. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to talk about the roles of public sector body for public workers' remuneration. The first public sector that contribute in public workers' remuneration is Public Service Department or PSD. The Public Service Department PSD is the lead agency in reforming the whole public sector. PSD main functions is to implement the recommendations of the Salaries Commission and Salaries Committees. It is responsible for almost all employees in the public sector, including civil servants. The Public Accounts Committee (PAC) has been set up to consider and report on the implementation of the Joint Council recommendation. For example, once they have been accepted by the government, as well as to negotiate with any public sector employees affected by them. The second public sector is Public Service Tribunal. The Public Service Tribunal or PSD is an
Arbitration Tribunal. It is constituted by the Public Service Tribunal Act 1977. Its main function was to determine any dispute in regard to any anomaly arising from the implementation of the recommendations of Salaries Commissions and Salaries Committees referred to it under the Public Service Tribunal Act 1977. The Public Service Tribunal PST has been abolished in the year 2000. Next is the Joint Council. Under the Joint Council, it will divide into two councils, which are the National Joint Council and Department Joint Council. The National Joint Council of the Public Service is the forum of choice. It constitutes three councils, which are one council for those in managerial and professional group, and two council for employees in the support group. This council was built to serve as a forum for consultation between representatives of the federal government and of public sector employees. While the Joint Department Council (MBJ) is a forum for employees to engage with management. MBJ's focus and functions is on interests of an organization's employees. The council will constitute to serve as fora for consultation between representatives of the ministry, department, and statutory authority. MBJ constitution must be produced and approved by both management and employees before it is submitted to JPA for approval. An MBJ meeting is a forum for employees to discuss issues relating to allowance, perquisites, services, service scheme and postings, welfare, administration, and so on. So, as conclusion, Salaries Commission is the body who will advise on the salaries and remuneration. Salaries Commission's function is not only to provide advice on employee pay and remuneration. Salaries Commission is also good place to work out job terms and conditions. Salaries Commission is in charge of ensuring that the total public wage cost is sustainable. Next, about the Salaries Committee. Salaries Committee functions is quite different from Salaries Commission because Salaries Committee functions is to provide clarification or info during general meeting. It operates through a committee-based structure that assists it in carrying out its mandate. Responsibilities and obligations. Salaries committees provide recommendations to the full commission, which it considers and votes on. Apart of that, about the system in the remuneration, there are three systems in remuneration, namely New Remuneration Scheme (NRS), Malaysian Remuneration Scheme (MRS), and Public Service New Compensation (PSN). Therefore, developing a compensation strategy is critical for all businesses, even startups. The compensation approach must be cost-effective, well-structured, and competitive.